okay, he's on drugs, probably ecstasy. And I was like, oh my god. So my friend's like helping me pull it out. It was so gross. I look over at this guy and he's like trying to kiss me again, kiss me goodbye, and I'm like, okay. And I look over at him and I see a bunch of white like under his nose. So I'm like, oh my god, like he did cocaine as well. Like, who is this guy? Make a girl go crazy. 3, 2, ow. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Fella Friday is back. I'm sorry I've been MIA. It has been a crazy summer. A lot of stuff has happened, but I want to go back to making regular Friday videos about my dating life. So for those of you who don't know what Fella Friday is, each Friday I talk about a different type of fella or boy that I've encountered in my dating life. So today's story is a little bit more of like a story time, kind of funny story. It is about the club boy. So this is a boy that I encountered in the club. I'm gonna set a little background from the story that probably doesn't seem significant right now, but it will all make sense when I finish the story. So it is March of 2016. It's my senior year of high school, and I was heading to Amsterdam to do my admissions test for medical school. So for those of you who don't know, you have to do like an admissions test basically. So that's why I was here, and I decided to hang out with my best friend Julia. Shout out to you, I know you're watching this. And it was around her birthday. We like wanted to go out one night. And so kind of backstory, I got into a car accident on my way to Amsterdam this time. I want to make a whole separate video about that sometime, so I'll do that as well. But I wasn't like really excited to go out because I was kind of like, I just had this car accident, kind of intense. So Julia came over to this apartment in Amsterdam. I was living in Switzerland at the time, but I was here on vacation, like I said before, or to do that medical test. So basically she comes over and we just started like hanging out. We had dinner and then we were both kind of like, okay, screw it, like let's go out. So the reason why we really wanted to go out was because she was talking to this guy, man, he was a little bit older at the time, and they'd like kissed a couple times, and he happened to be in Amsterdam that night with a friend. They were at a club called Melkweg. It's a really famous club in Amsterdam, and they like knew the DJ or something, so they could get us on the list. So she obviously wanted to go to see this guy, and I was like, okay, screw it, we can get on the list. I just won't drink because I had like painkillers at the time, so I was like, I just won't drink and we'll go. So we decided to go. We get to the party, or to the club, and we're like, oh, our names are on the list. So we get in, and right away we're kind of like, what DJ is this? Like, it's kind of a weird crowd. Everyone seems a lot older. And the two guys we were meeting, so the guy she was talking to and his friend, were both in their like mid to late 20s, but everyone there I think was like 30 plus. So we asked the guy at the door once we get in, like, hey, who is this DJ? And he's like, yeah, this is like a famous DJ from the 80s and 90s, and he's doing like a special like comeback. It's like a 30s plus night. So I was kind of surprised that you guys were on the list. So we were like, 30s plus night, like I had just turned 18, she had just turned 18. We were like, okay. But again, we were here for these guys. Like mainly we were here to see these guys. So we meet up with them, and she's obviously like lovey-dovey with her boy. And I meet his friend, and I'm like, okay, he looks good. He's like pretty attractive, like he's flirting with me, I'm pretty happy. And so this guy was from Suriname originally. I always hate this like political correctness, but this seems like it's not that important, but it'll be important later. But he like had dark skin tone. I'll tell you what, it's important later. But so basically, obviously my friend Julia and this guy, they're like having their time, and let's call the friend Jake. So me and Jake, we're talking, we're dancing. He was a really good dancer, so we're both like really dancing. And one thing leads to another. He's like wants to buy me drinks, but I keep just drinking water. I'm like sober, but he's obviously like, we could tell that they were on some type of like substances, like alcohol and drugs. Which is fine, like no judgment here. But one thing leads to another, and we start kissing. But I'm like, when you're drunk, you're kind of like super affectionate, or at least I am. But when I'm not drunk, I'm like, I like kissing, but I don't need to like be kissing the whole entire night. So at a certain point, I'm kind of like, back up, let me just dance. And he just kept like pulling me in to kiss him, and I just kept looking at my friend like, oh my god, like obviously we can't like leave these guys because we're with them, and she's obviously happy with her guy. I'm kind of like, ugh. I was getting kind of annoyed by like how often he wanted to just like make out. And at a certain point he goes and he grabs a lollipop, and for me this was like the signal, okay, he's on drugs, probably ecstasy. So for those of you who don't know, like people, like a lot of people in the club, when they're like licking a lollipop, they're usually on ecstasy because your jaw can clench up and it helps like relax your jaw. So I was like, okay, so I'm like, okay, kind of like leaving him, I'm just like trying to dance. And at a certain point he like pulls me in again, and I don't know, I guess like I didn't really want to be confrontational because I was with like, you know, him and his friend and my friend, but I feel like if this would happen today, and I guess that's part of my advice, like even if you've kissed someone once or twice for like half a night, if at a certain point you're kind of getting uncomfortable and you're like, I want to stop, just like tell that person, or like be stern with your friend, like I want to go if someone's making you uncomfortable. Which he wasn't really making me uncomfortable, I just didn't want to like make out all night, especially because I was like really sober. So he pulls me in again, we start kissing again, I'm like, okay, whatever. And I swear to you, because he had this lollipop and he was like out of his mind on all these like drugs and drinks and whatever, his lollipop gets stuck in my hair. And I was like, oh my god. So my friend's like helping me pull it out. It was so gross. And he's like laughing because he's like inebriated. And I was like, oh, you're fucking annoying. You're like, this is like the typical drunk club guy, you know, just being like kind of a douche, just like laughing, like not really being helpful. And I was like, oh, okay. But anyway, I think around like, we didn't make it super late, around like 2 a.m. or something. We were kind of like, let's go home. And these guys are like, yeah, like let's go back to your place, like after party. But I was here in my apartment, my parents' apartment basically, and my parents were here as well. Like they were here for, you know, we were here for vacation and for me to take that test because it was like spring holidays. So I was like, no, like you can't like come over, you know, we can't like after party. My parents are asleep in the guest bedroom. So yeah, that was kind of annoying that they were being really, really persistent. Let's see what happened next. That I want to say. Okay, but anyway, they were like, yes, we will at least like walk you out. So like, okay, that's kind of nice. It's kind of nice, you know. And we get outside. The club was super dark. So let me tell you that it was super dark. And we get outside, like to where the jackets are, like outside the club area. So we're grabbing our jackets and I look over at this guy and he's like trying to kiss me again, kiss me goodbye, and I'm like, okay. And I look over at him and I see a bunch of white like under his nose. So I'm like, oh my god, like he did cocaine as well. Like who is this guy? Like that's so, for me, not attractive, a guy that's doing all these drugs and drinking. So I was like, what the hell? You know, I was kind of like ready to get out of there. And so me and my friend Julia are like in a cab back home. And she like looks at me and starts laughing, and I'm like, why are you laughing? She's like, oh, like all around your nose and stuff, like it's all kind of like red, like your makeup like is smeared. And what you should know about me, but like back then I used to wear like a full like foundation face of makeup, and like I didn't really know how to like set it with setting spray or stuff that it wouldn't like move around. And so basically it wasn't cocaine under his nose, it was like my foundation, which again, because he was like he had dark colored skin, you could see it so much better because I have like the lightest shade of foundation. And it was so embarrassing, and we were both like laughing our asses off that we thought he would have like cocaine on his face, but really it was just my makeup. I don't know, it was so stupid. But anyway, that was basically, he texted me a couple times after that like, hey, when are we gonna go clubbing again? But I guess my thing about the club guy is like, it's fun, but like when enough is enough and you gotta find your outs, you know? He's definitely not the guy that I'm gonna take home to meet my parents. He's not the guy that I'm gonna go on a real date with. And club guys can be very pushy, which he was as well, like continue to kiss you, continue to flirt, continue to like, you know, go with you. And you sometimes, at least in this situation, the guy was extremely inebriated. So I guess my advice is watch out, do what you're comfortable with, and if a guy is extremely inebriated, like it's probably best to just go before you get a lollipop stuck in your hair like I did. So yeah, that was the story of my club guy experience. Definitely not the first, definitely not the last, but I thought it was a funny story. And I like just like how it showcased kind of stupid night when I thought I found true love in the club at first, and later it turned out to be a total bust. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a comment down below what you thought. Make sure to subscribe. I'll be back again next week with a new video and a new Fellow Friday, so be sure to check those out on my channel. I hope you guys enjoyed.